Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video, as well as check out Rusty Recaps over on Spotify and eventually other audio platforms. All that's linked. That link is going to be in the description. You know the drill. If you prefer to listen to this on audio at the end of the day rather than videos progressively throughout the day, or maybe you wake up tomorrow and you'd prefer to listen to audio that way rather than staying up or just waiting to see if a video comes out for me or not. If you're doing that, which I appreciate it if you are, but if you'd prefer an alternative, that's an alternative. These are basically short podcasts anyway, so go check it out. Anyways, this video I'm going to be covering the Clippers Mavericks Game 4 that just went down. The Clippers won once again, meaning that both teams lost both of their games on their home floor. This time around, it was even more convincing than in Game 3. Part of this had to do with Luka's shoulder injury, and we have to talk about that, or at least mention it for the context of how this game went. And I think there might be some people who might argue, like, hey, he got that injury in Game 3 and he still played fine with that injury. Really, I think that's just because of, what's the term I'm looking for? Adrenaline. Or not even really just adrenaline, just this happens when you're playing. I've had experiences before where I got hurt playing basketball, or just got hurt doing really any physical activity, or even just soreness from doing it, and you don't really feel it in the moment. You finish doing it and then you lay down, and then like you wake up the next day and you're like, holy fuck, I am in so much pain. It's very well possible that the actual pain of the injury was not that severe at the time that he got it, and then after a day's rest and he really feels it going into this game, he really feels it. It affects his shot. Early on in this game, Luka was getting the same kind of looks that he typically does. By the way, my washer is on and it's really fucking loud, so if you can hear that, I apologize. It's getting really loud right now. Luka was not hitting his shots early. What I did find interesting is that the Mavericks actually tried to challenge what the Clippers did at the start of the game. I don't know if the starting lineup did not have Zubac, because I missed the first like 2 minutes of this game, because I'm used to the like TNT or whatever starting the game 15 minutes later than they should, and they actually started this game on time for once, so that was a nice change of events. But I missed the first minute or two as a result of that, and as soon as I turned on the game, they were going to their small ball lineup with Marcus Morris at center, Nick Batum at power forward, and the Mavericks tried to counter this. Rick Carlisle tried to counter this by putting Boban on the floor. He said, okay, fuck you. I'm going to put the one guy on this team that can actually dominate in the paint at times. And he did actually do that a little bit. And as a result, the Clippers forced to bring Zubac back out. And Luka had a couple of opportunities on the switch once again, but the shots just were not dropping. And I've mentioned this before, that Luka hasn't taken the fullest advantage of the switch with Zubac, because he almost always ends up taking a jumper out of it. It's just that the contest on those jumpers are always really poor. I would still like try and get by him before doing jump shots, but at the end of the day, it was working. With his shot not being as on today, that really was not working for him, and eventually, because Boban has his own issues on the other end of the floor, and the Clippers were taking advantage of it, because once again, Kawhi and PG, and especially Kawhi, had great performances today. They had to sit Boban, and then eventually Zubac was out, and then it was back to square one, where the Clippers were running that small ball lineup, and I really think that small ball lineup has kind of fucked with the Mavericks. Now, Game 3, they mainly, like, I think Zubac played like 11 minutes. They went to the small ball lineup for pretty much all but those 11 minutes. And, of course, that was a much closer game. Luka had like 44 points, but no one else on the Mavericks really contributed. So that game really came down to, hey, if the Mavericks hit some more of their shots, on top of the fact that the Clippers shot ridiculously well, then they should probably be fine. They'll probably win Game 4. But this time around, not only did Mavericks players not make their shots, but Luka was not making his shots, mostly because of that shoulder injury. So that's a recipe for disaster. So now the Clippers are up, or not up, they're tied at the series up at 2-2. And I am concerned for the Mavericks, because I really feel like that adjustment has really been decisive in how this series has gone, because they've won those 2 games with those adjustments. Also, I have to mention, Tim Hardaway Jr. had an injury that did not look good. I am afraid that it's going to end up being severe, but hopefully it's not, and he'll be ready for Game 5. But at the very least, I think it's going to be a game or two out, and he's like been their second best offensive player. So that's not good, to say the least. And it's worth mentioning that Kawhi in this game, I said it a second ago, but Kawhi in this game, holy shit, it did not seem like he missed. The game is actually still going on briefly, at least I think it should be, because I decided to record this video about 7 minutes left in the game because it was that big of a deficit. Okay, the game just ended. So Kawhi had 29 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he was 11 for 15. It didn't seem like he could miss anytime he shot the ball. So that was a thing. Paul George actually did not play great for the whole game. He kind of started good and then gradually shots just weren't dropping. But really this game came down to Kawhi couldn't miss, the small ball was effective, and most importantly of all, no one on the Mavericks could really score. Porzingis, ironically, at least relative to how he'd been performing, and really even comparing Luka's numbers, he probably had the best game of any Maverick, which is terrible. The way Porzingis has been playing, if this is the best performance you're getting today, you're fucked. So that's kind of how it went. 81 points from the Mavericks, who I believe are a top 5 offense. I think that says all you need to know. This Clippers scheme, just basically running 4 forwards, which is wild, but I guess that's where basketball is today, because Paul George is a fucking small forward, even though he plays the 2. Kawhi Leonard is a small forward, even though he plays the 2. Nick Batum is a small forward, he plays the 4. Marcus Morris is probably more of a power forward, but he's fully capable of playing small forward. So it's just Reggie Jackson plus 4 small forwards, and that defensive scheme is much better switch-wise, because Reggie is like 6'4", 6'5", so it's not the same as 6'1" Patrick Beverley switching on to him, or 6'2" Rondo. And Morris can... the thing is, the reason why this works so well is because Porzingis is not someone who takes advantage of his height at all. If Porzingis was like Boban and was really good physically and took advantage of his size when he can, then this would be a different story. Boban, like I said, has his own issues, and that's the reason why he doesn't actually play a ton. But if Kristaps was just physical and took advantage of being 7'3", this whole defensive scheme that the Clippers are doing wouldn't work, because they would be giving up a huge lapse there. They'd be giving Porzingis easy post points every possession, but that's not who he is, and that's a problem. Porzingis had a good game today, relatively speaking, but still did not put the pressure on the defense that you would like someone at his size to do, and that is a problem. As for how the rest of this series goes, I'm still going to pick the Mavericks to win, but I can't say I'm not concerned. I made a video on my main channel that 110,000 people saw, where I basically said I had little reason to think that the Clippers could win this series. So part of it's like, at a certain point, I've talked so much shit that I kind of need the Mavericks to win this. Otherwise, that's just going to look dumb. It is what it is. I've looked dumb multiple times. I look dumb almost every day in some regard, but I would like to have that happen less. So hopefully the Mavericks win this one. Also, Luka is like my 3rd, 4th favorite player in the league at this point. So obviously I've been rooting for him this whole time. Hopefully that shoulder injury is only bad for this game, and for the rest of the series he should be fine. Of course, they're going back to Los Angeles, and with the momentum being more in their favor, I'm curious if the Clippers crowd will be a little bit more engaged and possibly get some momentum going for them. That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it's game down to Clippers' defensive scheme worked. Rick Carlisle tried to counter it, but then that came with its own flaws defensively. And at the end of the day, these teams are kind of stuck. At this point, it's come down to which team can outshoot each other, because they're not doing the greatest job defending each other. So who is going to shoot the best in this series? Like, the reason Game 3 was so great was PG in the first half could not miss, and Kawhi throughout the entire game could not miss. This game, Kawhi could not miss, and then everyone in the Mavericks could not make a shot. So It really seems like this series is coming down to who is hitting and missing their shots, and it's stupid that it's as simple as that, but both of these offenses are also very basic, so like really just comes down to the shots that they're generating. Do they go in or do they not? That's the end of it. So yeah. Uh, I feel like there's something I'm supposed to remote, but I don't think there is. Check out the audio. But yeah, that's it. Goodbye.